Alright, hey guys, I've got a new kind of video here for you today. It's not really along the same lines of the kind of videos that I've always done over the years. It's sort of like a compilation of different gaming news, announcements and such that have happened over the past week. And, I mean, there's just always so much gaming news that pops up that I always find interesting and get very excited for. And I've never really shared that with you guys before here on YouTube. Maybe in the forums, or sometimes I might mention it on the my AllGenGamers podcast. But the way that we record the podcast, we record a week ahead of time, so by the time I talk about it, it might already be a few days old. And then by the time we record it, and by the time that podcast releases, it could be about 2 weeks old. So gaming news just doesn't work on the podcast, so I figured I might try this every now and then, where, a group of little news stories come up for gaming that I find really interesting and want to share with you guys. So I figured I'd give it a try and see how you guys like it. Let me know if you want me to continue these videos, and I'll definitely do some more in the future. But to start off, the first news story that I wanted to cover today, SEGA has announced, finally, that there's going to be an HD remake of NiGHTS into Dreams on the PC, Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3. I am very excited because I am a very big NiGHTS fan, and for those that don't know, NiGHTS into Dreams is this game right here, which released on the Sega Saturn. It's known as one of the must-own games for the Sega Saturn. Some people buy the console just for this game. And it also introduced the 3D control pad, which allowed analog controls for the Sega Saturn. And this has been actually remade before. It's been remade on the PlayStation 2 with this version right here. However, this only came out in Japan, so the HD remake on 360 PC and PlayStation 3 is going to be in 16:9 widescreen. This version was also in widescreen on the PlayStation 2. Of course, this couldn't output any higher than 480p. With component cables on the PlayStation 2. And of course, I'm assuming that the HD remake coming out on the consoles is going to look a lot better than this ever did. Now, it's not known because the PS2 exclusive version did contain some extras in there, such as like a photo gallery and a video viewer, if I remember right. So it's unknown if those are going to make its way into the HD remake. And after you beat this game, it also unlocks Christmas Nights into Dreams, which was sort of a bonus game that was released in the US, Europe, and in Japan. This is the Japanese version, where it's a Christmas-themed version of NiGHTS into Dreams. I did a review on this a few months back, so you guys can definitely check that out. But people have asked, and SEGA has not confirmed, they can't give any details yet, if the HD remake will contain, Christmas Nights into Dreams. Will it contain the extras that were in the PS2 version? The only thing that they have confirmed is that it will contain the original Sega Saturn version, so if you want to see the game and what it originally looked like on Sega Saturn, that will be available. They said it's coming out later in the fall. No price point has been given, but this is really good, news for not only NiGHTS fans, but for people that have never played the game before that might not own a Sega Saturn. And this is good news for NiGHTS in general, because the last game that came out was NiGHTS Journey to Dream on the Wii, and that got a lot of mixed reception from NiGHTS fans. So hopefully this means that we might eventually see a NiGHTS 3. I'm hoping. The next bit of news that I wanted to cover, it's been I'd say about a week now since the rumors have been very strong about Final Fantasy VII coming to the PC. Some people were speculating that it was coming to Steam. Well, also today Square Enix officially announced that Final Fantasy VII is coming to the PC, but it is not coming to Steam. It is being released exclusively to their Square Enix online store. So you can't really blame Square Enix for doing this. Of course, we would have loved to have seen it come to Steam for just, the ease of use, because Steam is amazing. You have friends list, you have the achievements on there. It's just so easy to load up Steam and just play the games on there. Kind of releasing it exclusive to their Square Enix store is a bit of a hindrance. However, people that are fans of Final Fantasy should know this by now. Square Enix likes money. They like reprinting games, they like making remakes of things. I mean, look at Final Fantasy IV for an example. That is coming to, PlayStation 3 now too? That game is on how many different platforms and systems now? Which is not a bad thing, because it's an excellent game. But for them to release it exclusively to their store, it maximizes their profits, because they're not having to share any profits with Steam. But it also draws more attention to their Square Enix store, because I don't think many people even know that Square Enix has their own store where they sell merchandise and music CDs and games and everything. And they have their whole Square Enix member thing where you register games and you get free rewards, just like Club Nintendo. So you can't really blame them for wanting to bring more attention to themselves. The one really interesting news bit, however, about this coming to the PC is it's not an HD remake, and it has been on the PC before. I think it was Eidos brought it out way back when, and that's actually pretty rare to find out Final Fantasy VII on the PC in the big cardboard box. And back then there were some differences with like the music. I'm pretty sure that One Winged Angel, yeah, it had no lyrics whatsoever, so the song was different, not as epic as the PS1 version. But the really interesting thing here is they are adding achievements. There's going to be, I think, 36 achievements, which is pretty cool. However, the one thing that I'm not such a big fan of that they're adding is they're adding an option to, basically, apparently, you're going to be able to click like one button and it'll fill up like your health to full, your mana to full, and if I read this right, it said you get maximum gil. Now, I'm not sure if it's being advertised right now as a one-click to fill HP option. So essentially it's easy mode for casual Final Fantasy players, is how Square Enix is putting it. But I'm not quite sure if this is during gameplay, like after a battle you can be like, oh, let me just max out my HP and MP, and, you know, I'm not sure how the gil factors into it. Which the gil leads me to believe that there's an option to determine how many levels you want to gain. You can even max out your gil. I read that you can max out your gil. So I guess if you don't want to grind for experience and money, you can just max it out. That just completely ruins it for me. I mean, Square Enix must not realize that most people have probably played Final Fantasy VII already right now. If you wanted to play that game, you probably owned it and played it in some fashion. I'm not quite sure why they would release sort of a casual version of this game instead of a hardcore version where, let's say, they introduce a harder difficulty, you know, where it takes more grinding, the bosses are harder. Why wouldn't they add something like that? I'm not quite sure. It's not the news that everybody was hoping for, such as an HD remake of Final Fantasy VII. I think that's a long ways away, if it ever does come. But I just thought that was really interesting news for Final Fantasy VII. And the last thing that I wanted to cover is Ni No Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch for the PlayStation 3, as we all know, is coming out in North America and Europe. It has been delayed until next year, though. At least in the US, it's coming out on January 22nd. And some really exciting news for people in Europe and in the US. We're receiving a collector's edition for the game, which is going to be exclusive to Club Namco, the Club Namco website, which they sell exclusive Namco games, merchandise, and such. If you go there, this is the only place that you can pre-order the Wizards edition, as they're calling it, for Ni No Kuni on the PlayStation 3. And what it includes is the basic game, and probably the most exciting aspect of it is it's coming with the Wizards, I think they're calling it the Wizards Companion, which is a huge 300-page full-cover mixture of an art book and a strategy guide where it goes over all the monsters in the game, all the items, all kinds of stuff is in this huge strategy guide. It's being translated because it was released in Japan, and the cool thing is it actually keeps the original look of the Japanese version, same cover and everything. So they're translating that. That's actually exclusive to this Wizards edition, which is only on this online store. So you can't get this on Amazon, you can't get this in GameStop. It also comes with 2 download codes for 2 exclusive monsters, and you also get this little guy here. Those of you might remember I showed this off in an earlier video. This is a Drippy plush. It's one of the more recognizable creatures or monsters from the game. And this is, from what I can tell from the screenshots that they're showing off, the exact plush that you will receive with the Wizards edition. I already imported this from Japan, but this looks to be the exact thing that you're going to get. So that is definitely really cool. So for those of you that are anticipating Ni No Kuni, it's going to retail for $99.99, and they say it's available for a limited time only. No numbers were giving out in terms of how many of these will be available, but I definitely wanted to give you guys a heads up on that, so that if you plan on picking up the game, I would say definitely go for the Wizards edition on Club Namco. Well, there you go, guys. That's just a few news stories that I found really interesting from this past week. And if you want more of these videos, let me know down below. Just keep in mind, though, that I'm going to be covering news that's only interesting to me. Like, I know probably most of the stuff that I covered here today, most of you probably don't really care about whatsoever, but, this is the stuff that I'm excited for, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well, and I will see you all soon.